It's early summer now, and I have so many ingredients available to me on our farm, so I'm out harvesting things and preparing food. Join me as I do some cooking and homemaking in the kitchen, and I'm out harvesting farm fresh ingredients. My husband has had his best friend here for the past week. He's here for a 2-week visit, and we have been working really hard on our farm, and he's been helping my husband do a lot of heavy-duty labor, getting beds prepared, getting all of our salad mixes ready for sale, and I need to prepare a lot of food for these hungry men. I'm getting started this morning with picking strawberries. They are in season, and let me tell you, there is nothing better than a fresh, ripe strawberry right off of the plant. Nothing like the grocery store version, let me tell you. They are sweet, they are juicy, they're succulent, and they just almost melt in your mouth. It's such a treat. And so I am out picking strawberries to make strawberry shortcakes. And I also have my chamomile right here. And I've mentioned this before, but I just love the chamomile. It is so beautiful and it smells amazing. I'm also bringing in some of my green bunching onions. And these are just like regular green onions, but they multiply in the ground. So I've got some of those for some of the dishes that I'll be creating today. And then I've got my flower garden here, and the foxgloves are in bloom and they are just so beautiful. I really truly think this is the best time of year. Everything is just gorgeous. I've already been to the grocery store this morning, and I bought some ingredients for some of the things that I'll be making today. And one of the things that I'll be making is a breakfast casserole, and I found this recipe on Pinterest, and I will link it down below for you guys. And it really caught my interest just because it was simple, and I can use my green onions in this recipe. And I was looking for recipes of things I can make with some of the ingredients that I have. Here is some of my chamomile that I'm taking out of the dehydrator. And I actually had to wear a face mask to go out and harvest this because I left them a little bit too long and the pollen was really making my allergies go crazy. So I decided to go out there with a face mask, and it did the trick. So here's my chamomile, and I've got to jar this up. And I also have some mint that I'm putting into a mason jar as well. I have spent the several past couple of years really getting into preserving my own food. And it is kind of a lifestyle change, and you need to adjust things accordingly. And it's taken me time to adjust because, right now I really need to focus a lot of my energy on dehydrating herbs and preserving the food that I have available to me in abundance. And if I don't do that now, I could end up losing out on it. So I really need to pay attention to that. And in the fall time, there is a lot of canning to be done. And I just have fallen in love with the cycle of everything. It's so much fun and I get so much pleasure out of it. So now I am getting these hash browns out and getting some things started for this breakfast casserole. I have hungry men around that need to eat, and so one of my jobs here on the farm is to make sure that the people that are working hard get fed. And so I'm getting these hash browns in the oven. Now in the recipe it actually says that you can put them in frozen, but I don't know, I just felt like I needed to heat things up first and cook things. I was scared it would just end up mushy if I didn't. And then I'm getting some sausages started for that casserole. Now I'm just making some simple yogurt and berries for me and the girls because I need to eat something before I get started with all of this food preparation. And my girls are also hungry, so I'm just going to bring them a little yogurt parfait with some of these delicious fresh strawberries. Here are some things I've noticed. The berries taste better at room temperature right off of the plant before actually putting them in the fridge. The fridge actually changes the flavor of the berries and they're not quite as sweet. And then I've also noticed that the berries will actually last longer if you don't wash them until right up to the time that you're going to be using them. So I'm just adding a little bit of maple syrup to sweeten. And then I'm decorating with some fresh chamomile flowers, just for looks. I really want to get the most out of each season, and this just feels perfect for a nice little snack. And so I'm going to enjoy this before getting started with all the work for the day. So delicious. And I'm actually enjoying my time because my husband and his best friend are gone to do our deliveries. It's a Friday. And normally I do the deliveries with my husband. So I get kind of a day off to just play around in the kitchen, and nothing could be better than that. And I'm getting started now with my pie dough because I plan on making quiche for dinner tonight. So the pie dough needs to chill in the fridge, and I just do the recipe on the back of the box of lard. Fun fact, I worked in a pie shop for a couple of years making lots and lots of pies, so I have quite a bit of experience in pie making. My next step is to cut up the green onions, and I'm getting ready for those breakfast casseroles. And I want to have lots of green onion in there for added flavor. And when you have fresh food like this, you really want those flavors to be pronounced, not a whole bunch of herbs and spices and different things like that. I really want the green onions to really shine in this dish. And then because I'm stretching these ingredients for 3 casseroles, I decided to cut up those sausages so that they would spread out. And then I'm using the grease from the sausages to grease my pans with. No waste. So we're just laying these hash browns into the bottom of these casseroles. I'm going to be freezing 2 of these and then saving 1 for Saturday morning breakfast. And then on top of that goes the sausage, but you could use ham or any other type of protein. And then I'll be putting green onions as well, and then topping the whole things with eggs and cheese. And it kind of reminds me of making a quiche, but using hash browns as the base instead of pie crust. Now, it actually did surprise me how many eggs I used here. I used a dozen eggs per casserole. So I used a total of 3 dozen eggs for these 3 casseroles. That's a lot of eggs. And if you had your own chickens, this would be excellent. I don't have my own chickens, but eggs are pretty inexpensive, so I didn't mind. I am truly getting into freezer meals and batch cooking. It just pays off in such a big way. And so I'm really getting into it and realizing the benefits of it. It's just amazing. And it offers me time off on days when I don't feel like cooking. I'm just putting foil on these, and then they're going into an oven at 350 for 25 minutes with the foil on. And then we're going to take the foil off and let them go for another 20 minutes. There's no getting out of it. There's always going to be a lot of dishes to do on a meal prep day like this. But that's just part of the job, and I don't mind. I'm really used to doing a lot of dishes all the time anyways. Now it's time for me to sort through these strawberries. There was really only maybe 1 or 2 bad ones, and the rest are getting washed and ready to be chopped up for my strawberry shortcake. And what I realized with the fresh strawberries is I did make a fresh strawberry rhubarb crisp, and I thought that crisp would just be incredible using the fresh berries. And don't get me wrong, it was good, but I do think that frozen strawberries would have tasted just the same. And so I really don't want to waste any of these precious berries in anything cooked that I would get the same flavor with frozen store-bought strawberries. These are just such at peak flavor that I don't want to waste them. They need to be eaten fresh, in my opinion. One of my goals is to expand my strawberry garden. And right now I only have 2 beds of strawberries, but I want to have enough berries to eat fresh as much as I want in the season, and I want enough to make strawberry jam as well as freeze a bunch for the winter. And so that's kind of my goal for the future. And luckily strawberries self-produce. They stretch out little arms and they plant their babies. So it's easily done. It just takes time. And so now we're taking the foil off and letting those casseroles go for another 20 minutes. And then I'm adding some sugar to these strawberries and then letting them sit. And this is what my mom used to do when she would make strawberry shortcake. This is a super fine sugar. And so it's just going to melt in there and create a little bit of a syrup with those berries. And sugar is also a preservative. So it's also going to help these berries stay nice and fresh. And it's just going to enhance their flavor. So beautiful. So that's going to go into the fridge for later on. And nothing could be better than fresh strawberries. These casseroles are done. So they're coming out, and it just feels so good to know that I'm going to have something ready to go in the morning. And that just makes me so happy. I would actually love to do an entire freezer meal day where it's all breakfast things, just because we tend to eat the same thing every day, just regular eggs and toast. but it would be nice to do breakfast burritos and breakfast sandwiches and just have an assortment of different things, because we are working hard all day outside in the elements, and it does take a lot of energy, so it would be great to have all of that in my freezer. And so now I'm outside, and our little puppy is just precious. Her name is Sage, and we just love her, but she's getting used to the farm, and I'm trying to teach her to stay out of the lettuce beds or out of any of our, where our food is growing, and to stay in the walkways. So she's out following me around, and I'm harvesting some spinach for my quiche tonight. Spinach and salad greens are our specialty on our farm. And just as a little side note, greens are at their absolute best in the spring, right up until the summer solstice. And after the summer solstice, that's when everything wants to go to seed. And so everything starts stretching out, and you don't get as good of cuts out of them. And so after the solstice, we just have to keep planting again and again to be able to get what we need. And so now I am getting started with some biscuits, and I'm using my baking mix. And I'm not going to share this recipe just yet because it was a bit of an experiment and I didn't quite get it right. I had to add more baking mix because I overdid the liquid, because I didn't account for the fact that sugar is technically a liquid ingredient. And so it ended up too liquidy and I had to add more baking mix. I didn't have accurate measurements, but I am essentially making sweet biscuits, which technically would be considered scones. And I've been looking through my old vintage cookbooks, and the way they did this for strawberry shortcake was that they would do 2 biscuits and they would do a wash in the center and then put another biscuit on top. And that's what I decided to do to test it out. And I'm not sure if I did it correctly because I didn't look at the book again to find out exactly. I might have had to do an egg wash in the center. I'm not sure. So I need to play around with this before I share this recipe. I'm getting started preparing my spinach for the quiche. And what I do is I just pop this right into the boiling water. And I did not wash the spinach. Actually, spinach is one of the cleanest salad greens. The lettuce gets really dirty and it really needs a good washing. But spinach, on the other hand, because the leaf is so straight and it kind of sticks straight up in the air, it really doesn't get a lot of dirt on it. So I knew I was pretty safe just putting it directly in the hot water and wilting my spinach for a couple of minutes. And then I'm going to be squeezing out the liquid. Here is my first batch of scones and then another batch going in. And I wanted to have a lot of these around to go with the strawberries. I've done spinach like this for several years, squeezed out the liquid, and then I will oftentimes freeze my spinach. And spinach actually wilts down quite a lot and compacts quite a bit. So you can take a lot of spinach, and if you cook it down like that, it won't take up too much room in your freezer. And then you can do so many things with spinach in the wintertime. You can also freeze spinach completely fresh in freezer bags in order to use in things like smoothies. So I like to have that on hand as well. I had done some research on food in the grocery store and the vitamin content. And did you know that spinach will lose about 60% of its vitamin content within, I don't know if it was 24 or 48 hours of harvest? So, the timing of when your vegetables are picked, from then to the time that you eat them, they can lose a lot of their vitamin content. And I was kind of fascinated by that. So anyways, I'm getting my filling going for my quiche. I decided to use some of my homemade ricotta, some green onions, salt and pepper, and then some eggs. And I also added a little bit of milk just to get it a little bit more liquidy and a little less thick. But this was just a very simple filling, and it turned out so delicious. My son came over for dinner this evening, and he told me that he could eat an entire quiche like that to himself. That's how much he loved it. I still have half of my pie dough in my fridge, so I'll be making some more pies with that. I just decided that I was going to make 3 pies here, 3 quiches, and because we had an extra man around the house, I wanted to make sure we had more than enough, and also my adult son was coming over for dinner. And so we still have quite a bit left over actually, because I made a salad on the side using our own farm fresh salad greens. These are going to go into the oven at 375 for about 55 minutes. And they were completely set and done by the time that I took them out. And there is a lot of spinach in these pies, which was just picked, and so I'm sure they are very healthy. And I just love having days like this where I get a lot of cooking done, and it just feels so good. So now I am assembling a strawberry shortcake. I'm using some crème fraiche, and I shared a little video on how to make it. And then some strawberries, and then I topped it off with more crème fraiche and more strawberries just to make it super extravagant. And this was just a little taste test. I didn't actually serve this to everyone until after dinner. And there it is. And it was absolutely delicious. So now that my scones have cooled off, I'm putting them in my cake platter, and that's going to be set out later on for dessert tonight. And this was just such a beautiful day of cooking and preparing food for my family and for our guest. And it just feels so nice to get this kind of work done. I feel so accomplished, and it just makes me feel like such a good housewife. I tried to make a salad every single day with our dinner, and I like to just make very simple salads because I really like the flavor of the salad greens to shine. And so I'm just doing a very simple balsamic and olive oil dressing with salt and pepper. And I just put some green onions into the salad, and that's it. That's all that's needed because we have a lettuce blend here that has an assortment of different greens. And so they all have different flavors, and I like that to shine the most in the salad. And then I'm plating it up with this quiche, and this was just a beautiful meal. If you enjoyed this video today, hit that subscribe button. I share videos every week on food from scratch, homemaking, and life on our farm.